Hey guys, here's the gear for today. Frank Shaving. Years ago I bought this brush. This is a Whip Dog handle. Finest Badger is the knot from Frank Shaving. It's been soaking now for 10 or 15 minutes. It is a gel tipped knot and you don't see me use many of those. I'm going to be working it with the Cella soap, and I've been dying to try this classic soap with this Slurry Lather method that I've stumbled upon. And so we'll see how that goes today. I'll be using the Nacet, and today is shave number 493 with that. The razor is one you've seen a lot lately because it works just so well with the Nacet. At this age, timeless, open comb, 68 gap, stainless steel. I am cold today. The weather has changed, and so I might just bring in a little bit of warm water just to kind of warm me up. There's the markings for the blade. The Cella hasn't been used in a while, and so part of the Slurry Lather is not loading just a ton of soap because you just don't need it. And in fact, you want to keep a kind of an average amount of soap in there because you got a ton of water, and that's the right ratio, right? That's part of the whole Slurry Lather thing. And so I'm better at the Slurry Lather when I've used the soap a few times and I know how much it's loading. And of course, most of the time, if you're using kind of a Slurry Lather method, it's designed to be fast and it's designed to be to give you nice slickness. But kind of speed and simplicity is really the name of the game with it. And so that kind of person is usually going to repeat use the soap as well. And so I feel like that's waiting to decide how the Slurry Lather goes with a particular soap. I'm not surprised if it does take a couple of times to dial it in because you don't want to overload the soap, but you don't want to underload. And I discovered the Slurry Lather method when I was using Chisel Face Midnight Stag over and over and over. So I knew about the loading with the Midnight Stag. So you see with the Cella, this has discolored because it might be 4 or 5 years old now. Performance is still fine. The scent is still good. It's not as potent, as vibrant as it was when I got it, but it does the job. So we will take the brush. It holds a lot of water because it's a standard density knot. And so I shook most of the water out as usual. And let's load, let's just watch it, and then we'll figure out how much we loaded from kind of after the fact. When I was using Chiseled Face Midnight Stag, I'd been using it for a while, and there we go. That's 10 seconds. Let's just go with that. I had been using it for a while, and so I knew that just a few seconds, several seconds, 7, 10, that kind of thing. At that point I was counting swirls because I had used it so much. But I definitely knew how much soap was coming up off the puck given a certain amount of time. So that's not a lot of soap. It appears to be not a lot of soap. And so let's just see what happens. The Slurry Lather method. Get my face wet now. I was actually planning on bringing in some warm water for my rinses because I've got a little bit of a chill. But the Slurry Lather method may not allow that. So we have gotten, just a little bit of soap in the bowl, but this is a resting place for the brush. And if I have excess, I could just scrape it into this. The Slurry Lather generally is going to be a face lather. And it's okay if it starts out quite transparent, if you don't see any lather coming up right away. I can smell it. You can smell that almond type scent. Now, it probably should have come up by now. So we're going to go back for another 10 seconds. 5 seconds. Something like that. And get back to it. The whole point is not to generate you don't have to generate a full lather. You don't have to get that consistency exactly right. If water's dripping from your face, that's fine, because the point is you've got lots of water in the brush. It combines with the soap, and the soap and the water aren't fully combined in that mature lather, but the soap is floating around in all that water, and it's providing some kind of slickness that's even better than normal. And sure, yeah, the slickness is there. Let's see what happens. Normal 24 hours of growth here. Razor feels like it's moving well. This does fly in the face of the advice I've given for years in terms of letting the lather sit on your face. And so definitely just, try it out and keep that in mind. And if you can tell a difference, then, it might then matter whether you do a method that has a longer kind of face soaking time. And there we go, pretty fast. And with this method too, I've just found so often that I don't run out of lather. I was able to go 5 passes. And this is a face lathering method that gives you 5 passes of lather. And that's not common with a lot of the high density brushes, overloader kind of guys. And it's because of starting out with a slurry lather, a less mature lather, and so it's got plenty of room to mature as the shave goes on. I'm not dumping a bunch of concentrate down the drain. I am getting some nice scent, and I'm really happy about that. Since it's an older soap, wouldn't be surprised if I had to deal with minimal scent. I've gotten pretty good results right now. The rinse, the little splash of water revealed that I've got a nice slickness and a lot of hair removed. This is kind of sparse, and so, but I bet that would be remedied with just a longer load time. And actually, I think my water needs to be added to the brush here. And this is not surprising at all. I'm going to go for a couple of seconds here in the tub. Not surprising at all for a first try with a soap that hasn't been used in probably not a year, but several months probably. Got that nice layer of slickness down. And yeah, the razor's moving very nicely. Slickness is really good. Cella is how you pronounce it, I've been told, and it's Italian, and so the pronunciation is different than we might assume here in America. Cella is a performer that's been around for a while. The performance is not as good, the slickness is not as top level as Mitchell's Wool Fat, another old classic. And its lather doesn't stay quite, that's very good in terms of my skin feels good, slickness wise, hair's being removed nicely. But Mitchell's wool fat, it maintains that creaminess while you push a lot of water in it. And this one does not work the same way. This is more akin to the Midnight Stag, where I'm just going to splash some water on my face, sprinkle a little bit of water on my brush, and put down probably the last pass. Chisel facing. The OG tallow base that they use is very similar to the Cella. You know, it just doesn't stay creamy when you add a bunch of water. It can kind of posture up and body and give kind of an airy lather kind of sensation. If you push too much water in it, it starts to lose its slickness, just doesn't hold on quite as well. And then that's when this slurry lather method really shone, because I experienced a level of slickness that was unable to be reproduced by me, at least, either in the bowl or on the face, by bringing the lather to maturity. And so there was something about keeping the lather in a light suspension that I call a slurry. A few of us in the YouTube comments have talked about how we kind of think this is probably how guys have been shaving for many, many years, before YouTube was invented and all that stuff. Before even the lathers that guys would do for straight razor shaving. I mean, it's just a pretty common sense thing. It's almost like I need to do this before I go to work. I'm just gonna be quick about putting my brush to the soap, get a little soap on it, start it with the face. I'm not going to worry about crafting a luxurious lather, you know? And so it seemed like it turns out that method actually does work quite well, because there is something good about that kind of immature soap floating around in a whole bunch of water. And there we go. You know what? I'm having fun. And we're 12 minutes into it. That's all. My face feels great. The slickness of my skin here with the stubble gone is terrific. You know what I feel like doing is I'm going to get my brush, kind of flaunt convention here, poured a little water on my brush right out of the faucet, and just go back for a couple of seconds, and I'm going to do one last pass. We'll see what kind of little slurry lather we generate here. Because now that we've kind of warmed up the soap, yeah, see, this is, you know, this little pass here started out super translucent, but as you can see, it's building. I like this brush a lot. It does have the gel tips with the finest badger, and it's inexpensive. It's definitely lower priced than a lot of those finest brushes that are in vogue right now, the Declaration Grooming and all that kind of thing. It's along the lines of maybe the Sterling finest badger. However, it's got less backbone, and I probably mounted it with to have less backbone on purpose, because that's the way I like mine. And so if you want an inexpensive badger, finest badger with those gel tips, that kind of thing, then the Sterling Finest is a good way to go if you want to head toward backbone, more firmness. But if you want the softer end of that, it's been years, so I don't know if they're the same knot as they used to be, but the Frank Shaving on eBay, there's where I got mine, is maybe a good option for you. Yeah, oh yeah, and see, that's just right. So for a quick shave, if you like face lathering, if you don't have time to maybe put that wonderful mature lather all together, it looks like this method works with Cella as well. And there we go. Great shave. Unlike the Barrister and Man Four Horsemen soap that I used a couple of times ago, that was the War fragrance, that lasted me several hours after the shave in terms of providing me scent. The gel is not going to do that. It'll fade quickly, and that's okay, because what is designed to give you more scent is an aftershave splash, for instance, but they are only a slight step above that in terms of scent longevity. They're mainly meant to help your skin adjust after the shave. They're not meant to give you a smell all day long. That's what colognes are for. That's what EDPs, another word for cologne, EDCs as well. And those have concentrations. That's the difference between the two terms, EDP and EDC. But today's splash, why don't we use some fine platinum? This is the Creed Aventus scent, and so since we use the classic Cella soap today, we'll use a classically famous and popular cologne scent for the splash. I do get a little bit of face burn with the alcohol in this one. I'm so glad there's no menthol. I'm able to fully apprehend the scent here. And while that kind of soaks in, I want to show you guys a little cooking thing I've been on lately. Roughly big dices of potatoes. It also works with sweet potatoes. And you just chop them up like that, and then you put them in a bowl like that with a little bit of olive oil, salt, and pepper at the very least. But you can put other seasonings in there that you want. And then in years and years past, you would put it on a sheet and put it in the oven and roast it. But then you'd have to rotate turn the pieces over, that kind of thing. Well, with the air fryer, it all works so much better. And so I'll take that mixture right there, raw potato with the spices and the olive oil, that kind of thing, or any kind of oil really that you like. And then I'll put it in basically 1.5 layers in a food air fryer. And then start it with about 10 minutes, and then give it a shuffle and another 10 minutes, that kind of thing. Get them as golden brown as you want. I played around with different temperature settings. The sweet potatoes take longer to cook, as you might imagine. And you can get them really soft and they look really nice, but I like to push them even further than that to start to get brown. And man, they have this nice chewiness to them that I really enjoy. A healthier snack than the potatoes. And you're governing the amount of oil you're using, instead of French fries kind of thing. So if you want something maybe a little healthier than potato chips as a side, then that might be a good way to go. It's another great way to make a chickpea snack. If you get the garbanzo beans or chickpeas, treat them the same way. Pour them in a bowl and mix in the seasoning and a little bit of oil. And then just put them in one layer down, maybe 1.5 layer in the bottom of an air fryer. And they don't take as long to cook because, of course, they're smaller items. And you can get them to a nice crispy state if you want, or a slightly chewy state. Wonderful snack, healthy snack there. So how much soap do we have as we return to shaving? So I did go back and do some different loading with this soap. But it worked out great, and this is a nice brush. It's super comfy on the face. I like the splay of it, the easy splay, and the tips are soft. They don't feel like a big boatload of sponges on your face. It feels right, and so I'm really glad about that. I wasn't sure whether I would like the gel tips. This is my first one. Matter of fact, this is one of the first brushes I ever got. I bought the silver tips from Whip Dog first. And then somebody on the wet shaving forum subreddit recommended this particular Frank shaving knot, and it was a wonderful counterpart to those silver tip brushes, because it had that backbone, a little bit more backbone than the silver tips, because it was a finest badger, but it had those gel tips, which was just a different animal. So I've given it a good rinse now. Shake it out down here in the sink. And so that's how it looks. The tips clumping together, as pretty much always does with a gel brush. Now, if you do have gel tips, you don't want to be, at least this is my theory, my educated guess, you don't want to be too vigorous about drying it off, especially when the tips are still kind of fragile. They're not really fragile, too fragile now, but because they're super wet. But if this is dried for a while on your counter, then you wouldn't want to use it too much more because the tips have been treated and weakened a little bit with that bleaching agent. And so you can see it's changed a little bit, but it's still clumping to some degree, and that's just fine. They will get crispy, and that's a good brush to use. I really should use that one more often. This one had a whip dog handle at the time years ago. They had the this shape handle with solid colors that I had already bought a couple of, and I really liked. Luna handle, I think, might be the name. I'm really reaching back in my memory. And then I saw this one, and I thought, well, let's delineate, make it easier to tell between the Badger and the other ones. So let's try the Luna handle. Well, I got it, and it was a different mold. It's very similar in shape. However, it had a little lip that came up right there out of the saddle, and then it went back in, and that was no, it didn't come up right. It was actually a bead that was laid around the perimeter here, where the other handles, the solid color handles, it had a more gradual ramp up from the saddle up to the ridge. It wasn't just a bead laid around a ring. And so the other one I enjoyed a lot, but when it was just a bead, it kind of bothered me. I bet I'd get used to it after a while, right? But it bothered me, and so I took my Dremel or a file or something like that, and I sanded it down. So that's why it's a little marked up here, here with this handle, and so now it's a lot more comfy. All right, well, that's today's shave. Smelling good. The fine platinum I'd probably recommend if you get it on sale or if you get it on the secondary market, but they're kind of charging a lot for it right now, and so I might turn to Sterling Executive Man instead. Pretty much the same thing for less money, and so I'd say that. Well, I didn't need to fill up my water cup today because I didn't use it to make a bowl lather. All right, well, as usual, I'm going to loosen up the head here, give it a nice shot of water through there. It was a good non-clumping, not dry lather, and so that makes rinsing the blade and cleaning all the parts very easy and quick after the shave. I'm going to gently place the blade on a washcloth over here and very carefully tap it just to kind of remove water from the edge, from the blade itself. So that's use number 493 in the books. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully this helps you as we march closer to the big 500. You guys take care. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves.